to him, you say my name again, and he'll kill him.
Hey guys, I thought I'd play the Battle of the Beechcreekers intro because I do like it, even though I say so myself. But this isn't about the Summer Wells case specifically. You know, it kind of is, but it's very niche. Okay, so you've got to, be willing to nerd out a little bit. But this video, live, whatever, has been requested loads of times. And in my members live that I did the other day, and you didn't have to be a member to view it while it was live. So I'm guessing that some of you guys saw it live, even though you're not a member, but only members can view it on the replay. And genealogy was one of the things that we discussed that people would like to see. So here we are. And I'm not the only creator that's been doing genealogy of the Beechcreekers. There's a few people who have done genealogy. I don't know how far anybody's got, actually. But what I can tell you is that in the tree that you're seeing right in front of you here, which I'll explain in a moment, this is the Hill family tree. Like, you've just got to give it a name, right? So I started with Ben Hill way back. I started with Ben Hill, and I've now got 944 people connected to each other in this tree. Going back to the 1700s on many of the lines. So yeah, I do this on and off. I go weeks without even looking at it, but I do always go back to it. And I can't really remember why we started, like me and several other creators started to look at genealogy. I think it was because it became very apparent very quickly in this case, in the Summer Wells case, that Beech Creek was quite a special entity in that it was very close-knit. It was, I guess you would say, self-governing in certain ways, very rural, and everybody seemed to know everybody else. So looking at the genealogy, for me, was an obvious way into understanding where Summer lived and understanding the people around Summer. So although doing this genealogy won't find Summer Wells, it won't tell us anything about where Summer Wells is or what happened to her. It absolutely won't. But it helps us understand the broader picture. So I think that's why I've continued to do it. Notwithstanding that I enjoy genealogy. I've been doing my own family tree for how many years now? 18 years, 17, yeah, going on 18 years. 2005 I started mine, and I've got, I don't know, maybe 3,000 people in the Law family tree. And yet I can't find this has bugged me since 2005, right? I'll just sidebar just for 1 second. Where my great-grandparents lived, and my great-grandparents' family kind of all lived in one area, just a few streets, basically. And there's another family of Lows who lived on those same streets way back in my great-grandparents' time. And I cannot, for the last 18 years, find a connection between my family of Lows and that other family of Lows. I can't find a connection, and it's driven me insane for 18 years. And there must be a connection. I just can't find it because it's not in the records. But it's interesting that for the Beechcreekers, it's easy. I found this really easy to find definite connections between lots of people that we've talked about in this case, some of whom have spoken out in this case. And everybody that I've gone on to research, I've got a connection, either by blood or by marriage. Isn't that bizarre? I've even got Chad Arnold now. Last time I spoke about this, the genealogy of the Beechcreekers, I said I wasn't confident about the connection between Chad Arnold and everyone else. And I've got it. Got it, guys. I got it today. I finally got it today, which is why I'm doing this live. But before we get into the family tree, and I want suggestions, who in this tree, well, you don't know who's in the tree, but who in Beech Creek do you want to see in this tree? Let's see if I've got them. And I've got a handy dandy pen and paper, or at least I did have. Where's it gone? Yeah, I got a paper. I forgot a pen. And if there's anybody that you want me to do that's not in this tree, I've got a pad but no paper. No. I've got a pad but no pen. How weird. I got a pen. I found one. I just had to stand up. There we go. Right. So this is research for me, as well as showing you my working. And I'm not going to go through, guys, I'm not going to go through 944 people, because honestly, most of them are, like siblings and cousins and stuff like that. And I've not had any reason to look into them. So, all right. Before we get into it, though, just give a few shout outs. RZTV, member for 9 months. Thank you. We've got Criminal Med, member for 6 months. Oops, my chat just jumped then. Absolutely love and appreciate your wonderful work. Thank you so much. Down Under with Love, member for 11 months, nerding out. We do love a good nerd, don't we? We do love a good nerd time. Okay. All right. Let's just have a look to see if there's any suggestions. Because let's have a look. Your family's oh dear, many incestual relationships. Wow. That's funny. I think it's an extremely dodgy area. I think there's a lot of dodgy characters, but also I think there's probably lots of really nice people there as well. You have Wells in your family. I mean, one of the first things that I think I wanted to find out was Don Wells actually related to anyone in Beech Creek, even though he's not from Tennessee. I kind of thought, well, is there somewhere a connection, like, generations back? And there isn't. There's no Wells originally on Beech Creek. Not that I've found anyway, but there's lots of ways in which there could be, because once we get into this, you'll see that there's, lots of individuals who I've never looked into, I've never needed to look into, because I've been looking at direct relations like ancestor-descendant relationships, and I don't often go across to siblings because I don't need to. Redmond. Now, there's no Redmonds in this tree. So Redmond is a good one. I assume you mean Ed Redmond. But no, there's no Redmonds in this tree at all. What was the woman related to DW who's also a neighbour? No. What Don Wells has no blood in Beech Creek. No blood relatives in Beech Creek, obviously, apart from his own children. No ancestors. What he does have is a stepdad called William Gold. And William Goad was Don's mother's third husband. First husband being Don's dad, second husband being someone called Earl Kelly, and then third husband being William Goad. And it's William Goad who is a Tennessean. The Goads have got, you can go back to the 1600s, 1700s, whatever. You can go right the way back to the beginning of Tennessee. To see that the Goads owned land. They owned land, I think, initially around Bears Mountain, that kind of area. So east of Beech Creek, kind of northeast of Beech Creek. That's where their land base was originally, and then obviously they've spread out. And it's William Goad's sister, Mary, who lives on Simpson Road. So that's the relation. It will be Don's step auntie. Cotton. We're going to start with Cotton Simpson, because he's interesting. He's related to everybody. Lawson. Not found any Lawsons. I've kept looking. And again, it could be that there are Lawsons somewhere connected to Beech Creek, which I just haven't found because, as I just said, I've been going up and down the generations, and I don't often go sideways. You'll see what I mean in a minute. How funny if it was that Laura and Fred came back related. Laura isn't from Tennessee. She's from Virginia. So her surname's Laura White, and I've not found any Whites. I'm not saying that there isn't any. They might be distantly related, because obviously Beech Creek, or that little part of northeast Tennessee, is very close to the Virginia border. It's in like a 15-20 minute drive, 25-minute drive to the Virginia border. And a lot of these guys going way back do come from Virginia and seem to have kind of moved into Tennessee from Virginia. Some of them. You've got to go way back. Redmond is mysterious. Yeah. Redmond is mysterious. There's a few people saying Redmond. Yeah, you mean in Mary. I think you mean in Mary. Redmond is an attorney. 100 acres up hill from 110. Yeah, he owns a lot, doesn't he? He owns a lot of acres. Does Redmond. Dudley doesn't. The Adjans. I've never looked at them actually, but none of them have appeared. Yeah. Dudley isn't a Tennessean, so it's unlikely that Dudley would be related to anybody. Louisiana, yeah, originally. Now, what brought his family to Tennessee is an interesting conversation, but I guess it's kind of like, because Dudley's never lived in Beech Creek, and his family don't live in Beech Creek. Like, his dad lives out on the outskirts, kind of outside of Beech Creek, but they're not Beech Creek. They're not Beechcreekers. Yeah. You are. You're talking about Murray. Yes, he's related to everybody. Cotton is related to everybody. Will this ever end? This family tree? Probably not. The Morlocks. There's a few Morlocks. There's a few Morlocks in the tree. Yeah, Mary Goad. Yeah, we've got her. Who's Beechcreekers? The people from Beech Creek. Just my name for them. The Beechcreekers. Beech creaking around. History's a thing of the past. It is, but it informs the present. That's why we do history, because it informs the present. So a few suggestions for a few asks for Lawsons. I've been looking for Lawsons. I've actually got a separate tree for the Lawsons. I started to do Ronnie Lawson's family tree to see whether I could find a common ancestor with anybody in this Hill family tree. And I can't at this moment in time. I'm not saying there isn't a connection. I'm just saying at this moment in time, this is very much a work in progress. I could be doing this for the next 10 years and still only scratch the surface. So yeah, I've actually got a Lawson family tree. I had to start separate family trees to work out how Gary Simpson was related. And then I started a separate Arnold family tree to work out how Chad Arnold was related. And then once I find a common ancestor, once I find a person way back that sounds familiar to me, then I can work across two trees and fit them in. So that's how I do it. I'm not saying that's the way to do it. I'm just saying that's how I do it. There was a Wells family home moved on. Well, there's no Wells in it that I've found in this tree. And certainly I've got a Wells family tree as well, which is Don's family. And I've kind of gone into the Blighs and the Haras as a connection to that. And there's no commonalities whatsoever. None of Don's past relatives, like ancestors back, generations back, come from Tennessee. And Don's mother's connection with Tennessee is via meeting William Gold. And she actually married William Gold in Texas. So they must have gone back to Tennessee because that's William's ancestral home, where he, I don't know, maybe owned land there. I don't know. Because he certainly bought land there. So he obviously had that familial connection. And maybe they went back there in their later life. Like I said, William Gold was Karen's Don's mother. It was her third husband, so they married later in life. They were both into their middle age when they tied the knot. Karen had two husbands before. So there's no commonalities between the Wells, the Blighs. The Blighs come from Wisconsin, kind of, way up north. And so do the Haras. I mean, they've moved about a bit, but up in the northern United States. I think there's some connection with Connecticut, some connection with Minnesota, I think. It's a while since I've actually even looked at that tree. But what my kind of focus is on Beech Creek, because obviously that's where Summer lived, and that's where Summer will come back to if she's found alive, assuming that she comes back to her parents, which is incredibly unlikely, given that it seems unlikely now that the boys are going to go back there. I would assume that if Summer's found alive, then she'll go into the foster system with her brothers. I'm assuming. Beechcreekers, yeah. Yeah. Send me a picture from a Facebook group. What of? The Beechcreekers? What of? Is Blue Roof Dawn related to Arnold's? What's his surname? Remind me. Chambers, isn't it? Not that I know of. So we'll get them in as well. Possibly, but not that I know of. Like I said, you know, there's to start to fit someone in. Let's say, for example, Redmond. Let's just take Redmond because he's the top of this list. Because I've done Lawson, like Ronnie Lawson, and not been able to find a connection. Not saying there isn't one, I'm just saying at this moment in time. But let's say if I went to Redmond, I would put him in a new tree, a brand new tree, and then I'd find his parents, his grandparents, and so on and so forth, and I'd keep going back until I found someone in that tree that I recognize the name of, and then I'm able to then start incorporating it into the big tree, which is the hill tree. Pruitt. These people, I mean, you see, people who've moved into the area or who live at the other side of Hawkins County, I think this is what the problem with Lawson is, that his branch of Lawsons don't live in Beech Creek and haven't lived in Beech Creek seemingly forever. And I'm not saying there aren't relatives who live in Beech Creek, but they don't feature in this family tree. They're not kind of relevant to the people that the 944 people that are currently in this tree. Goalie, I feel that the goalies moved there. I don't think they're natives. I can look. I don't think they're natives. Like the Adjans, I don't think they're natives. Certainly Dudley isn't. Now there may be a connection with Tennessee going back, you know, away, because his dad lives in Tennessee, so his dad obviously moved there for a reason. So the people who move there, there's no reason why they would have relatives. Who's Redmond? He owns Ed Redmond. He owns a lot of acres right at the bottom of Ben Hill. He, like the land that kind of goes to right. If you go right to the end of Ben Hill Road, as far as you can go, it turns into like a dirt track, and then that's Redmond's property. He owns like all the back end, and it has been searched. It has been searched. For people who say it hasn't, it has. Apparently, I wasn't there, but apparently it has. Apparently, he allowed searches on, and there's been drones and all sorts of things, that, you know, all over his land, and it has been searched. Hattie, I don't know what you mean. Cemetery at Fall Branch. Don't know what you mean. Because Fall Branch isn't Beech Creek. Beech Creek is just that it's a small area. You see, if I just let's define our terms for a moment, shall we? Let's define our terms. So when we talk about Beech Creek, we're really talking about, this is Beech Creek Road. We're really only talking about from probably, I mean, I don't know where it officially begins, so to speak, but Beech Creek Road, so this is Lone Star Road. Beech Creek Road starts at Solomon's Temple. So I guess if we're defining Beech Creek by the road, then it starts here and then goes down past Mount Carmel. So it's a few miles, and I think that's where Beech Creek Road changes into North Fork. So this is Beech Creek. This is Beech Creek Road. So it incorporates light hollow. There's 2 light hollows. There's one in Hawkins County, which is this one. And then you've got Mount Carmel and Fields Road, Bell Road, Ben Hill, Light Hollow Road, which is this one. And then you've got some roads, a few roads that go up the other side. For example, you've got Simpson Loop, which is the one that goes around here somewhere. So it's a very small area, if you think about it. So it's probably from about there to Solomon's Temple. That's Beech Creek. Now, most of it is in Hawkins County, but Sullivan County starts... I don't know whether Light Hollow Road is in Sullivan County. I think it is. So they're right on the border. So most of Beech Creek is in Hawkins County. But if you live in Hawkins County up here in Rogersville, it's like 20 odd miles away. Like Kingsport, even though it's in a different county, is way closer. So I think that's why people on Beech Creek go to Kingsport, and also it's bigger than they go to Rogersville. I mean, it's like me. Like, I live in Lancashire, but I'm right on the border. I'm less than a mile away from the Greater Manchester border. So if I ever wanted to go to a town, I'd go to Wigan, which is, 5-6 miles away. But it's a different county. But you don't think like that, because it used to be that Wigan was in Lancashire, and Wigan is Lancashire. And a lot of people in Wigan, I'd say that all the old traditional Wiganers will say they're Lancastrians. They don't associate with Manchester. Manchester's just this weird place. Like, they went nuts when they created the county of Greater Manchester in 1974. I was only a kid, a small child, and I remember my nan and granddad going berserk. My nan was screaming. How can they possibly say that Wigan is not in Lancashire anymore? Wigan is Lancashire. Wigan is... Oh, yeah, it was a massive thing. Massive thing. Thank you, Patricia, for the $9.99. My number 1 fan. An avocado. Thank you. Yeah, so it's a very small area. So even, saying that anybody from Rogersville is connected to the Beechcreekers, well, they're not. It's 20 odd miles away. I think Church Hill, there's a lot of people who feature in this tree who are from Church Hill, or at least have connections with Church Hill, or have moved to Church Hill. So Trents. Yeah, there are some Trents in this tree. There are some Trents. What's my top theory? As to what happened to Summer? The more I get into this case, 2 years on, the less I know. Honestly, I used to be. I started off in the very early days convinced that she'd been. The very, very, very early days, I thought she just wandered off. And then I became convinced she'd been abducted. Then I became incredibly convinced for several months, and I couldn't shake it at all, that Summer had been sold by her parents, and nobody could tell me any different. I was absolutely convinced. All the videos are still there in the Summer Wells playlist. I made video after video after video about why I thought Summer had been sold. And I was that convinced that I'd started to ignore facts that we know that didn't support that counter that. And I'd conveniently ignored it. So once I started to open my mind and look at other possibilities, I became less convinced that the parents sold her, although I think the parents, at least one parent, knows more, much more. And I would say I'm probably 99% sure that at least one parent knows more than they've ever said. Hopefully law enforcement knows what they know. I don't know though. And I've gone back to abduction, but controlled abduction. I've never thought stranger abduction. I've always thought this is an abduction by someone in the immediate area. And I think that's one of the reasons why the genealogy is that I've kept going back to the genealogy, because it's like, well, all right, who's connected to who might keep a secret for someone, but also, you know, amongst families, even close families, you probably have more feuds amongst families than you do friendships, honestly. So it's also who's willing to stab each other in the back, who would be willing to tell if they found something out. And we're seeing this playing out now with Fred. That now Fred has told this secret about Cotton Simpson. Well, I don't know whether Fred's telling the truth or whether Cotton was telling the truth, but it just makes it even more. It makes me even more certain that I'm on the right lines in looking at the genealogy as the a relevant backdrop, shall we say. No, I didn't start it because of Jodie Sue. No. Jodie Sue wasn't even... I started this before I even knew who Jodie Sue was. Early history Wells family. Yeah, but they're not... If there's Wells in Fall Branch, they're not in Beech Creek. There's and the Wells, if there were Wells in Fall Branch, they're not the Wells that we're talking about. They're not Don Wells. Like, I went to school with someone with the surname of Wells, and I'm pretty sure she's not related to Don Wells, just as a guess, given that they live 4,000 miles from each other. Wells is a very common name. It's got an English or Welsh ancestry, Wells. It actually means Welsh. Wells means Welsh. Or it has an alternative meaning as the family that lived by the well. Andy Paul. I don't know who Andy Paul is. I haven't been able to find an Andy Paul anywhere. Like, presumably Andy Paul has a surname, because I originally thought when the name came out that Paul was his surname, but there's nobody of that surname anywhere. So is Andy Paul a nickname or what? Because I don't know who that guy is. I've no idea. Yes, Marlena's in this tree, yes. Lights, yes, I've got Frank Light in here. Where is she? No, the horrors come from way up north. The the Wells, the Blyes, the Haras, and all of their clan or clans, no connection with Tennessee. None. Not even one. None. I don't know where she is at the moment on this moment in time. I do not know where she is. Yeah, Laura is from Virginia. Yes, I have looked into the lights. Ronnie Lawson's mother could have inherited her family's land. I do know who Ronnie Lawson's mother is. Clyda Trents. I've not got Clyda in as a human being, but I've got some Trents in. Again, it will depend if Clyda originally comes from Tennessee. Oh, that's funny. Anyway, right, let's show you this tree. No, apparently no. Andy Paul's someone else. Andy Paul is an entity in his own right, and nobody seems to know who he is. Or at least, certainly, I don't know who he is. Are the Johnsons connected to Beech Creek? Not seen any Johnsons. Again, I haven't looked. You see, unless you're really looking, then you don't find unless you look. All right, let me just get rid of this map in the background. All right, let's start with cotton. All right, I'm a little bit leery of doing this because there are some people who are along this bottom row are alive and they're not connected to the case. They've never been mentioned in the case or anything. So I'm being a little bit guarded with these names right down the bottom here because they're living people. And when you see some of them saying living, it doesn't necessarily mean they're living here on this generation. It just means that I don't have a death date for them, and I haven't ticked deceased. So I don't know whether these people are alive or not in this row. But this is Roy Cotton Simpson right here. Right, so his dad is Rochester Simpson. His mother is Martha Arnold. Right, so I can show you how he's related to Chad Arnold because I did that today. Do I think there's going to be justice for Summer? I sincerely hope so. I just have to hope that law enforcement knows a lot more than we do. There's a pic of Andy Paul, I think it was on Ziggy's Live, and he looks like Cam. What, Cam from Cracking Cases? Okay. But unless what's his is Andy Paul his full name? If Andy Paul is his full name, then I can't find him in any records. If he's Andy Paul someone, then what's his surname? And I'll try and find him. I don't even know if he's relevant at all to anything, but he is someone that I've tried to look. Right, so how Chad Arnold is related to Roy Cotton Simpson is pretty convoluted, actually, because there's lots and lots of Arnolds who are spread out, and it seems to be that the Arnold families have moved about, and I was looking, like I was going back like 5 generations and could not find a connection between Chad Arnold and Martha Arnold, who is she's only died this year, who is Roy Cotton Simpson's mother. But this is how I did it, and it's not through the Arnolds; it's through a female line, which it's always harder when that happens. But we have to go Let me... Hold on a minute. Right. We've got to go here. So we've got... Oh, I've got living people here. Got Chad Arnold and then Jason Arnold, right? Jason Arnold died. He was Fred Hill's best friend. So just ignore those two people. They're not relevant. Don't look at them. Blah, blah, blah. Because they've never been named. They're not relevant. Don't look at them. Look here. Look here. So Chad and Roy Cotton, right? So we've got his mother. So it comes from his mother's family. But it's not through the Arnolds. So Chad and Jason's dad is Billy Dean Arnold. And then their dad is Donald Arnold. And then we keep going up. And then we leave the Arnolds. We go to this woman here called Edna Schism. What a cool surname. Schism. I've never heard that surname before. Anyway, Edna Schism is my link. So we go up here to John Schism. And then we go up here to James Schism. And then we go up here to William Schism. So that's the common ancestor. So you have to go back and back and back until you can find a common ancestor. So this is how it is. So Nancy Schism and James Schism are brother and sister. So you've now got to follow two lines down. So you've got William Arnold. And then, where do we go then? William Arnold to... And these lines start getting ridiculous. They start like mapping onto each other. Okay, so we've got Jesse Arnold. Charlie Arnold. And then Martha Arnold. All right, so if I zoom right out. Right, so they're only very distantly related. Okay, so their common ancestors here. William Schism and Elizabeth Duncan is their common ancestor. So we've got siblings, cousins, second cousins, third cousins, fourth cousins. So that makes Chad Arnold and Roy Cotton Simpson fifth cousins. There you go. Boom. I only got that this afternoon. I thought I had a link between Chad Arnold and Martha Arnold, but I revisited it and it was just two people with the same name and the birth years weren't close. Like birth years in old records can be out by like 2 years because people didn't really check the birthdays very often. But when it's out by like 10 years, you know it's a different person. So I knew that that line wasn't right. But what I found was a schism both in Chad Arnold's ancestry and Martha Arnold's ancestry. And I thought schism is such an unusual surname. They have to be related. There must only be one family of schisms in Beech Creek / Churchill, because a lot of these live in like Churchill, like just outside of Beech Creek. And they were. And I had to go back and back and back and back. So they're fifth cousins. Now, when I did my own genealogy research, I found out that my best friend at school was my fifth cousin, and I didn't know. I didn't know that my best friend Diane and me were fifth cousins. So it's very likely that Roy Cotton Simpson and Chad Arnold did not know that they were related. Quite possible that they didn't know they were related. And if they did know they were related, they knew it was only very, very distant, because it is only very, very distant. Okay. All right. Let's do Roy Cotton Simpson and Gary Simpson. Gary Simpson being the man who kidnapped Carly Trent back in 2016. Is Gary Simpson related to Cotton? Yes. Why are the Wells considered outsiders if they're related to Mary Gord? Because Don Wells is a stepchild. So, and William Gord didn't bring Don up. Like, it wasn't like they lived in the same house and he brought them up. Karen married William Gord in her later years. Like, Don was an adult when Mary and Bill Gore got married. So there's not that family relationship. You know, it's not like the man that I called Dad is actually my stepdad, but he brought me up from the age of 5 and I called him Dad. So if you get into kind of that kind of relationship where you have small children within a family, then they're more likely to be considered family. Whereas if you have a family that, you know, joins in marriage and there's children that are adults already, then technically they're step kids, but they're not kids, they're adults. And the Gords have a dispute with Don Wells. The Gords didn't believe that Don should have that land. So Mary Gord and Don Wells don't get on. Could I please explain the difference between first, second, and third cousins and first, second, third cousins once, twice, 3 removed? It's confusing. Yeah, I can. I'll explain it when I look at Fred and Andy Bernard, because they're first cousins once removed. So I can explain first, second, third. So going here, so Nancy and James are brother and sister, which means their kids, so their kids share a common set of grandparents, so that makes them first cousins. On this next generation, they're second cousins and they share great grandparents in common. Third cousins share great great grandparents in common. And fourth cousins share great 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 grandparents in common. And then fifth cousins, genetically, fifth cousins share very little common DNA, honestly. Very little common DNA. When you get to that level of distance, where they're sharing like 4th times great grandparents in common, you'll get some completely unrelated people who are genetically closer, strangely, just by a twist of fate, than 5th or 6th cousins. Thank you, Lindsay, for the £2. That's very kind of you. Who is Candace related to in that tree? No one, Joe. As I've been saying, the Blythes, the Haras, and the Wells have no connection with Beech Creek or even Tennessee. None. They're not relatives. They've no blood ties. Do you think this baby Candace supposed to have after summer was Cotton? She didn't want to know, so I had Cotton unalive. No. I mean, look, anything's possible, but you're into the realms of mega speculation there. I mean, Candice apparently has had her tubes tied when Summer was born. So, yes, it's technically possible to get pregnant after you've had, your tubes tied, because occasionally, very rarely, but occasionally, the operation goes wrong. And, you know, if you have it, you have to have a complete hysterectomy. So you have to have your ovaries and your uterus removed to 100% guarantee that you will never get pregnant again, because you just don't have the equipment anymore. But if you have your tubes tied, it's just your fallopian tubes. I don't think they actually tie them, they burn them, I think. So you're basically severing the tube that the egg goes down from the ovary to the uterus. So you're severing the tie. And there has been cases where women have got pregnant after they've had that operation, just like a man having a vasectomy. Occasionally, they get a woman pregnant, and they thought it wasn't possible, and they did, because the operation wasn't 100. You know, it wasn't successful. And if anybody out there has ever had the tubes tied, or if you're a guy, you've had a vasectomy, they tell you, don't they, that there's still a slim chance of pregnancy. It's very, very rare. They used to clamp it, now they cut. I think they use like a little Bernie thing to cut it. I don't think they physically tie it, do they? So if it's true that Candice had her tubes tied, then the chances of her becoming pregnant at all are incredibly slim. And then you have to think, well, what are the chances of her getting pregnant by Cotton? Now, she says she doesn't even know him, which may be a lie. And then her bumping Cotton off because of that, why would she? Like, if she had a baby after Summer, so Summer was born in 2016. So when was this baby born? I mean, it's obviously before 2021, or else we'd have known about it, wouldn't we? So why would she wait 2 years? Because he only died in February 2023. So you've got a bunch of very unlikely circumstances there. Each one of those is unlikely. Thank you, Jackie, for the £2. Thank you. It's very kind. I mean, it's possible to get pregnant after you've had your tubes tied. I mean, I don't know anyone personally, but I just know it is technically possible. I think there's more guys got women pregnant after having vasectomies. I think that's slightly more likely than a woman to get pregnant after she's had her tubes tied. But I don't know. Don't quote me. I think I know one person who was a guy who had a vasectomy who got someone pregnant. But I honestly think that I think she must have got pregnant, because you're still technically fertile for a while after. So anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, Gary Simpson. So this is how Cotton Simpson and Gary Simpson are related. And again, it's only distant, and this took me a while. So we have to go to Roy Chester Simpson, who's Cotton Simpson's dad, and then we open up his family, which are the Simpsons. So we go up for a few generations, and we reach someone called Jeremiah Simpson, who was born in 1795. Your husband's cousin had 2 sets of tubes on each side. Oh, wow. That's unusual. Fred and Laura claim Candice went and had a baby real quick while Don was at work. I mean, you can't just decide to go and have a baby, can you? The baby comes when the baby comes. So what if Candice had gone into labour when Don was home? What would have happened then? What would she have done? Said, oh, I'm just nipping out to get some milk, and nipped to the hospital dead quick and had a baby and then come home. I mean, I don't know. I think, right, that Candice maybe said she was pregnant as a joke. You know what Candice is like? She's got a history of pranking. So I'm not saying Fred and Laura are lying. I'm saying it just isn't true that Candice was pregnant. And it could well be that Candice was telling people she was pregnant. Maybe she put on some weight and she thought, I know what, I can joke around telling people I'm pregnant. Actually, I'm just fat, but I can joke around and tell them I'm pregnant. When did Candice say this? I don't know. Before Summer went missing. She was running a con. She probably thought that she could get some free stuff. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? I just really don't think that you can just nip to the hospital and have a baby. And Summer was born by cesarean section as well. So once you've had a baby by cesarean, isn't it really difficult to give birth naturally afterwards? I've heard that. I don't know because I never had a cesarean. I might be wrong on that if we've got any midwives in the house. All right, so common ancestry is someone called Jeremiah Simpson. So if we just go down to get back to Cotton, so Jeremiah to Jesse, then to William, then to Jasper, then to Roy Chester, and then to Roy Cotton. You can have a normal birth after a section, can you? Is it not more dangerous or difficult? Or I think I've heard that. I may be wrong. Look, guys, childbirth, believe it or not, is not my specialized subject. I only know what I've heard. I've never looked into the intricacies of childbirth beyond having my own children. I'm not really interested in other people's babies, to be fair. You know, like when somebody else has a baby, you're like, oh yeah. When, somebody has a puppy and you go, oh my God, cute. Somebody has a baby, it's like, oh yeah, I'll just like it on Facebook because I feel I should. I don't care. All right, so Gary Simpson. We go to James, right? So Jeremiah had another child. He had like 1 million children. Jeremiah was very fertile. He had like 1 million children. So he had someone called James. So if we open James's family up, so we go James Henry down to John Floyd Simpson. And then we go to Vincent Simpson. I don't think he's still living. I don't know why. I've not got a date for him. Gary Lewis Simpson, who died in 2022. So if we zoom back out, we get to the common ancestor, Jeremiah Simpson, right up here. Okay, so James and, what was this dude's name? Jesse, they're brothers. So we've got siblings, next generation's cousins, this generation's second cousins, this generation's third cousins, this generation's fourth cousins. So Roy Cotton Simpson and Gary Lewis Simpson, who kidnapped Carly Trent, are fourth cousins. There you go. Boom. That took me ages to find. I had to create a whole Gary Simpson family tree to find that because I had to work up from Gary Lewis up through a bit. I did it through obituaries to find a common ancestor, which is that. All right. So who else shall we do? Should we do Geordie Sue? Because Geordie Sue is also related to Roy Cotton Simpson. She may not know it. She may not know it. Again, it's very distant. Buddy Wanshu, thank you for the $4.99. Has Candice ever had a miscarriage? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that one. I do not know. All right, let me just remember how this works. I can't remember. Oh, I'll do Golds first because they're actually really closely related. So William Gold, who is Don's stepdad, is actually really closely related to Roy Cotton Simpson. Again, he might not have known it. He might not have known it because I've got a second cousin who I share 4% of my DNA with, and I only found this out when I did 23andMe, who lives in New York. I didn't know that I had any relations in anywhere in the United States, and I've got loads of them. But the closest is my second cousin, someone from New York, never spoken to them, don't know anything about them. 4% of my DNA shared in common. We share a great-grandparent. Who'd have thought? We live 4,000 whatever miles away. Who'd have thought? All right, let me remember where I go for Geordie. Oh, no, I'm going to do Gods. All right. So, Roy Cotton Simpson's down here. So, we only need to go to here, to this woman called Steny Gold, who was married to William Henry Simpson. So, if we go to her siblings, again, they had big families in them days. All right, so we've got Nathan Gold right here, who had a daughter called Steny Gold, who married William Simpson, who is who's Roy Cotton Simpson's, what will it be, great-granddad. All right, let's look. Steny Gold. She had a brother called John Curtis Gold, who was related to, who married Ida Light. So that's one way that the lights come in. All right, so we open this up. This gets confusing. So John Curtis Gold had a son called John Curtis Gold Jr., who had a son called William Gold. And that's Don's stepdad. So when you zoom out, what you see is the common ancestor is Nathan Gold and Elizabeth Hamilton. So these two are siblings. These two are cousins. These two are second cousins. I'm on the wrong side here. Where's William Gold gone? Hold on, just let me get rid of Gary Simpson. He's bugging me. Right, let me close. Where's James? Let me close him. Get rid of him. Right, makes it easier to see. All right, we'll start that again because I've got to find William Gold. Where's William Gold gone? Oh, there he is. Right. I've got to know where I'm going. Okay, so zoom back out. So common ancestors here, Nathan and Elizabeth. So siblings, cousins, second cousins. So William Gold, who is Don's stepdad, and Roy Chester Simpson, who is Roy Cotton Simpson's dad, were second cousins. So this is where the once removed come in. Just me. The oldest children of Candice are well into the teens or maybe older. Right, yes, that is right. So there's a girl called Candice and a boy who lives in a facility. I don't know that the son lives in a facility. I know that's been said, but I don't know whether that's true or not. Do you think that's why law enforcement keeps saying everyone is still a person of interest? Because the answer is found amongst the Beechcreekers. Yeah, I do. I really do. I really do. I am going to explain it right now. Down Under with Love. So the once removed, right? So, William Gold and Roy Chester Simpson are second cousins, which makes William Gold, Don's stepdad, and Roy Cotton Simpson second cousins once removed, because you're removing on one side, you've got another generation jump. I don't know why it's called once removed. I guess it's one generation removed. So second cousins, and then this one is once removed. So like my cousin's children, let's say I've got two cousins who've got children. Their children are my cousins once removed. So it's when there's like the next generation comes along, the older person of that cousin is still their relative, but it's one generation removed. So William Gold and Rochester Simpson share a set of great grandparents, right? These guys here, right? They share a set of great grandparents, but Roy Cotton Simpson, being Rochester Simpson's son, shares, they will be his great-great-grandparents. The common ancestor will be his great-great-grandparents. So it makes William Gold and Roy Cotton Simpson second cousins once removed. It is difficult. It took me ages to get that, to understand that. Right, let me get rid of the Gords now, so that I'm going to do Geordie Sue. But I've got to remember how this works. Can't remember where I'm going. Hold on, move. You get lost. Oh no, I don't want you back. Go away. Right, I'll get rid of him. Oh no, I can't get rid of him. Right, I've got to work out how. No, not there. I remember showing people in my Facebook group. Whose relative is it? Right, I'm gonna have to physically search for Geordie Sue. Geordie Sue will hate me doing this. All right. All right. So this is Geordie Sue's granddad. I don't want to show her mum's name. Don't think that's fair. So this is Geordie Sue's granddad. So that's a great granddad. And then, so I think it's these guys. Yes, it is. Right, got it. Right, so that's Jodie Sue's granddad, great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents, and then one of her great-great-great-grandparents was called Martha Simpson. And again, Jodie Sue might not know this. What's Jodie Sue's maiden name? Brown. She's not married. She's never been married. Her surname is Brown. Her maiden surname is Brown. She's never married to Andy. Okay, so if we open up Martha Simpson's siblings. Okay. So we now have a lot of interconnectedness way back in the early 19th century between the Simpsons and the Arnolds. The Simpsons and the Arnolds kept marrying each other. You find that with quite a lot of these, because the Crawfords and the Simpsons kept marrying each other as well. And the Crawfords and the Arnolds kept marrying each other, and the Crawfords and the Lights married each other. They're all like, this is how, distantly, they're probably it started with a few families, right, moving into an area. So they end up with a lot of people who are distantly related, but they have the same surname. Like the Arnolds, there's loads of them. But like they're scattered about. So there probably originally was one family of Arnolds, but they've spread out so much and they've bred so much. There's lots of Arnolds, and the relatedness is so distant, you probably can't even get it through records. A shallow gene pool, yeah. So it's not like they're all marrying their cousins, first cousins, but there's a lot of distant relationships. But you could say that is the same in any close-knit community where it's it's been quite insular. It explained, it's the same in my area. There's like within, not now because a lot of new people have moved in, but the small villages that, let's say 2 generations ago, everybody knew everybody else and people were distantly related. And if they weren't related by blood, they were related by marriage. And if they weren't related by marriage, they were related by association. Somebody had adopted somebody from wherever and brought them in. And, not like legal adoption, but just like taking a kid in. Like I've got a set of great-great-grandparents, and they just like seem to just like adopt kids. Like not legally. I don't think legal adoption was a thing then. But you find this random person. And actually in the census, it would be called adopted son and adopted daughter. It's like, well, where have you come from? Where have you come from? I can't find where you've come from. Anyway, go down here. I don't know what Noodle's whinging at. He's downstairs whinging. I have to shout at him in a minute. Hold on. Yeah, I've got him. Got him. Right, there we go. Got him. Right, so. All right, we're going to start here because I don't want Jodie Sue's family on this. Right, so this is Jodie Sue's granddad. And this is Roy Cotton Simpson's parents. Right? So if we zoom out, we go up here, and we've got a common relation, William Dale Simpson and Melinda Arnold. So siblings, cousins, second cousins, So Geordie Sue's granddad and Roy Cotton Simpson's dad were third cousins. So siblings, cousins, second cousins, third cousins. So that makes Geordie Sue's mum and Roy Cotton Simpson makes them fourth cousins. So Roy Cotton Simpson and Geordie Sue are fourth cousins once removed. Noodle wants some loving. Well, he can come upstairs. There's nothing stopping him from coming upstairs. Noodle! Noodle! What's up? What's up with you? Oh, don't you start growling. Cassie's growling at him. There we are. He's in the room now. You better stop growling. You, Cassie, are you listening? She's so mean, Cassie. She's so mean. Like, Tilly barks back at her, but Noodle won't. People didn't get out of the holler much back. Well, there's quite a few hollers. You know, these people are not all living in the same holler. They're not all living on Ben Hill Road. They're spread out. No, I bet she didn't know it. Like I didn't know that my best friend at school was my fifth cousin. You know, when you get that far back, who's been keeping check? Who's been keeping check of who your third times great grandparents were and who your three times great grandparents' descendants were on another line? You've got you just don't keep track of things. No one keeps track of things like that because it's too many generations. What is a holler? A holler is it's like a path into a mountain. So like like Ben Hill Road, right? Ben Hill Road starts climbing up the mountain. So it's like a little valley, if you will, a hollow. It's a hollow that goes up into a mountain. So people have made roads that go up into the mountain and people live on those roads. It's called hollows. Like we have them in this country. Fun fact, the surname Hoyle comes from holler or hole. Like if you lived in like a dip in a, you know, a valley or a mountainside, you would be called the Hoyles. I only know that because I've got some Hoyles in my family tree. It's not a valley between mountains. No, that is a valley. It's like a road that goes up a mountain, but on either side you've got like steep sides. So it is a valley, but it's not a valley between mountains. It's a valley that goes up, like where there's lots of ridges, like mountains in my country. You don't see it so much, but Scotland and Wales, we have the same, like the really craggy mountains. So there's lots of, like on one mountain is like lots of ridges and mini hills. So Ben Hill Road, like where the Wells live, that's a little foothill. Let me show you. Yeah, you can't easily see it on a map, but let me show you by zooming in here. Right, the Wells live on a hill that everybody says, oh, that's really steep. You can't climb that. That's really steep. No, that's not a steep hill at all. Right, look. Right, that's the actual mountain. There. That's the actual mountain. The Wells live on this little foothill. So in between these little foothills and ridges and stuff, you get these like little tracks. some of them, like the natural tracks. No, that's not. That's a cutting. But let's say Ben Hill Road's here. So you've got these kind of natural, like, gaps. They were probably created like millions and millions of years ago by water pouring down the mountains. So these probably would have been like streams way back when the dinosaurs were alive or something. So you've got Ben Hill Road and it starts to snake its way up into the mountain. So you've got these little foothills. So the Wells live on a little tiny foothill. Then Jodie Sue's property. Oh, still looking at family tree. Sorry. There we go. All right. So this is the mountain, right? That's the mountain. That's how big the mountain is. The Wells Hill that everyone thinks is so steep isn't. It's just a little tiny thing. It's a little tiny foothill. So you've got Ben Hill Road that starts to snake up. That I bet like millions and millions of years ago would have been probably a river coming down, I'm guessing, that snaked out these tracks. Right, so there's Ben Hill Road going up. So past Fred's. Where's Fred's? So Wells, where Jodie Sue used to live. And it goes up. That's Fred's. Well, Fred's dad's property there. That's the goalies there. Then you've got Fred's mum's property. And then Ed owns a lot of this stuff around the back here. And Ben Hill Road still carries on. Right, so you can go up there. You could walk all the way up there, or even there. So this is a hollow. It's like a gap going up into a mountain. And it's in between these like little foothills and just natural ridges that are formed. Like, look how high that one is. So as you go further up, like the ridges get higher and you're still going up. So you'd have to start climbing now because it gets really, really steep. But you're still going up. That you could walk up there if you're a good walker, right the way to the top. You could probably go up there. That might be easier. You can see there's a track. Look, there's a track that goes all the way up. So that's a hollow. So a valley between mountains is a valley. So Beech Creek Road is in a valley between this mountain and this mountain. So that's the valley there. The hollows are the little tracks that go up between the natural hills at the foot of the mountain and the ridges and stuff. All natural creations. They have snakes and shit. No walking for me. Yeah, they do have snakes. All right. Who else are we doing? Let's do Fred Hill. So I've not found a relationship between Fred Hill and Roy Cotton Simpson. There probably is one. I just haven't worked it out. But they're in the same tree. They might be related, actually. Maybe I just haven't. Hold on. Where's my tree search gone? It annoys me when this happens. Where's my things gone? Right. Where's my tree search gone? What the hell? I've just broken Ancestry. My tree search should be there. Where's my tree search gone? Let's just start it again, right? It should have kept in place. All right, there we go. All right, Fred Hill. All right. So Fred Hill is here. Oh yeah, you know the names of his sisters now, so I'm not going to hide them. I'm only hiding people that we've never talked about. I don't think it's fair because it's not relevant. All right, so Fred Hill is the grandson of Ben Hill, who that particular holler is named after. All right. So, Andy Bernard is Fred Hill's cousin through this. Let me work this out. Where he is. Where's Andy Bernard gone? There. Oh, there. Anna Hill. Right. So, so we've got Ben Hill here. Ronald Fred Hill. That's Fred's dad and Fred Hill. So Ben Hill had a daughter who then had a daughter called Polly Smith through Thaskell. Thaskell's a funny name, isn't it? Thaskell. But anyway, Polly Smith is Andy Bernard's mother. Right here. There's Dodie Sue. So that makes Andy and Fred first cousins once removed. Benny Hill. Yeah, I know. I thought the same. Huge questions. Does the trees actually fork? Just kidding. I don't know what that means. Anyway, right. So Ben Hill. So we've got Anna and Ronald, who are siblings. And then we've got Fred and Polly, who are cousins. So Polly's son, who's Andy, is Fred's first cousin once removed. So Polly and Fred are cousins. So that means Polly's offspring are going to be Fred's cousins once removed. I said there was no relation between Don and Ronnie Lawson, right? Yes. There's no relationship between Don and Ronnie Lawson. There's none. Zero, zilch, no. Don's relatives, Don's ancestors, they do not come from Tennessee. They don't come from Tennessee. It was a rumor. It's not. There's nothing. There's no basis in any level of fact in this life or the next. They are not related. 100%. I can guarantee it. They're not related. Yeah, Andy and Fred are first cousins once removed. I've been saying that for months. If people watch my videos, but yeah, they are cousins. Who else do you want to know about? Marlena Crawford is also related to Fred. So I have to go. again, I don't look at these very often. Like the Crawfords and that, I don't really look at them very often. Hold on, let me just get rid of her. All right, Crawfords. Oh, I think it's him, Bird Crawford. So we've got David Crawford, another light there, Bird Crawford. Let me just find the link there. Here we go. Right. So that's Melina Crawford. I've not even given her a gender. And Ricky Crawford. So that's Ricky Crawford Sr., who died. Shouldn't have said married. Who died last year. So then I've got to find Fred Hill again. Why have I got so many opened up here? Hold on, I've got to find Fred again. Where's Fred gone? There he is. All right, there he is. Right, so we have to go up to the common ancestor, which is up here. Zoom out. Up here. Right, so we've got common ancestors here. David Crawford. So that makes Bird Crawford. What name? Bird. And Arthur Crawford here. Makes them brothers. So then that makes this generation cousins. This generation second cousins. Which makes Fred and Marlena Crawford third cousins. So Fred and Marlena are third cousins. Who else shall I do? I think I've done everybody that we talk about. Can't. I mean, there's 944 people in this family tree, but it's because I've got all like the brothers and sisters in, and they had huge families way back. So like they were like having like 10 children. Like my great grandma and granddad had 13 children, so it was just common back then to have like 1 billion children. The Brits aren't Beechcreekers. Like originally, they don't come from Beech Creek. I've not got any Brits in this tree. I can look to see. I just know that the Brits don't originally come from Beech Creek, so I've never even looked at them. Breonna Tester doesn't live in Beech Creek. Oh, she didn't live in Beech Creek. She's dead now, isn't she? Have you done the Morlocks? There's a bunch of Morlocks. They're closely related to the Lights. Oh, let me do Frank Light. Do Frank Light. All right, so this is Frank Light. Grady Light, that's his dad. Bird Light. This Bird was like a common name. Reuben Light. Nathaniel Light. I've not gone all the way back on this line, but there's loads of Lights. So Nathaniel Light married Julian Morlock. The Morlocks and the Lights kept marrying. Like the Arnolds and the Simpsons kept marrying, and the Arnolds and the Crawfords kept marrying, while the Lights and the Morlocks kept marrying. Like you see loads of them. How are they related to Fred through here? I think. Okay. It's ages since I did this. Not that one. Maybe that one. Oh, let's have a look. Oh yeah, I've got a James D. Bernard here. Bernards and Lights also married. Barretts and Lights married a lot. Barretts and Morlocks married a lot. I'm trying to find where Fred Hill is. Could be her. Oh yeah, got him. Boom. Oh no, that's the Smiths. Oh, this is Andy. I'm pretty sure Fred and Frank are related, but seeing as I've opened this up, so this is how Andy Bernard and Frank Light are related. So Andy Bernard. So we have to find the common relation. So go up here. We have Reuben Light and Bird Light, Grady Light, Frank Light, right? So Reuben also had a son. No, actually, he had a daughter. A Light married a Light here. How interesting is that? So this daughter had a son called Homer Light. No, wrong one. Homer, get lost. Let me just close Homer up. Get rid of Homer. No. Okay, so they had a daughter called Eva Light who had Thaskell Smith and then Polly, who then had Andy. So if we go back to this, so siblings, cousins, so second cousins. So Frank Light and Andy Bernard are second cousins twice removed. Because Frank Light is on the same generation as Thaskell Smith. I think it's because Grady Light's like mega old. Like Grady Light's like this really ancient person. He was born in 1927. So you have Frank Light when he was like quite old. So it's weird because Frank Light's young and like Thaskell, who's Polly's dad, was like long dead. So second cousins twice removed. Andy Bernard and Frank Light. Any relationship with the Sherfies? Now, I started to do the Sherfies a while ago, and no, they're not, because they don't live. Their only association with Beech Creek is through Mary Gold's daughter, Christy. So the Sherfies, one line of the Sherfies actually come from Kentucky, if I remember rightly. So maybe I could go back far enough and I'd find one common ancestor somewhere, but it's unlikely. So no, I don't think they're related. But I don't know about Don Sherfy Sr.'s first wife. I've never looked into her. So that would be Don Sherfy Jr.'s mother. but they're not Beechcreekers. Grady is very elderly, yeah. So that's why we end up with second cousins twice removed, because Grady's so old. So he's like on the same generation as Thaskell. All right, I'm curious as to whether Fred and Frank Light, they must be related. They must be, but how? I mean, they're obviously related by it's like I can't find a relationship, like a blood relationship between Fred and Cotton. But they're in the same tree because of all the like marriages. So everybody is related somehow, but not by blood, but by marriage. So you can see here that the Barretts and the Crawfords and the Lights, the Morrisons. So just marrying each other, keep going up. Like these generations have not got anywhere. Because you get to the mid 1700s. I mean, these were like born in like 17, like this guy here, 1766. You end up with I've got a generation back there. You end up running out of records. I've got a Bernard there, James Morrison and Mary Ann Bernard. So you've got a few Bernards and then a bunch of Lights. So the Crawfords and the Arnolds married a lot, and the Simpsons married a lot, like each other. And then the Lights, the Barretts, the Crawfords, and a little bit of Bernards, they married each other. I guess it's just like where they lived, like specifically, like which hollers were the nearest, you know, which teenagers got together and ended up marrying. It's you know, the days before cars, so your world was much smaller. You know, people would ride about on horses, obviously, but it was the days before any other form of transportation except horses. So if you didn't have a horse, you weren't going very far. You had an aunt, but really she was your first cousin. She was 20 years older. Yeah, those kind of things happen, don't they? I'd like to know more on Sherfy and Ronnie Lawson. Well, I've not got a Sherfy tree, but I have got a Lawson tree. Not that I've done much with it. I've just because what I was basically doing was tracing Lawson to see whether there was any relationship between Ronnie Lawson, originally Ronnie Lawson and Don Wells, to try and disprove the fact that they were related. I knew darn well they weren't, because Don's not from Tennessee and neither are any of his ancestors. But then I just carried on going a few generations back. Oh yeah, I found some Smiths. So I wanted to know whether Thaskell Smith and Mary Smith were related. So I need to do that actually, because that would mean that Polly Bernard and Ronnie Lawson were related. I need to do that because I got the Lawsons back quite far, but that could be a way in which the Lawsons are related to at least someone in Beech Creek. So these are just the Lawsons, and they don't. There's no common names at all, apart from Smith, and Smith's such a common name. Like Smith's the most common surname in my country. So there's plenty of Smiths who are not related, even if they live in close proximity. Like there's no common names. Now, maybe if I dug a little bit deeper, Smiths will be one way to do it. I gave him a cool picture with his shades on. But the Sherfies, I started looking at the Sherfies, but I didn't do a tree. I think I was just doing it like on a piece of paper. But I will look into them again. Ronnie's Men in Black picture, yeah. Are all Don's family from Utah? Yeah, his mother's side, yeah. His dad's side's a bit weird. There's links with Utah, but his dad seemed to like move around a lot. Like Don was actually born in Florida. So it makes them a little bit difficult to trace, but yeah, Utah in the main. But about Laura White, she's not from Beech Creek. Somerville Willis, interesting name. Why? Somerville Willis. I haven't even looked at any of these. Somerville Willis. Born in 1837 and died in 1926. So she was an old lady. Some of these people lived a long time. Like, they were quite long-lived. Must be all the mountain fresh air and stuff. I believe Don's lineage is in Utah. It is. Mostly it is. Certainly on his mother's side. Until you go back a few generations, and they are from England. Don has relatives in England. Also Denmark. His mother's side are from Denmark originally, like before they moved to the United States. The Haras are originally from Germany. Yeah, so you're related, Judy, you're related to Joseph Smith. Someone said there are two Brandon Lawsons. Well, there's only one Brandon Lawson that's the son of Ronnie Lawson. He doesn't have two sons called Brandon Lawson. So if there is another, I'm sure there is another Brandon Lawson out there in the world. But whether he's relevant at all to what's going on in Hawkins County is anyone's guess. Longevity is definitely found in the mountains. Yeah, well, it's all the fresh air, isn't it? And on everything's uphill, so you're doing a lot of walking and stuff. And you're having to make your own food and fresh air and drugs. maybe the current generations they're living in Beech Creek are not going to be quite so long lived as their ancestors were. I'm just guessing, because a lot of them seem to die. Whereas, you know, you got the likes of Grady Light, who was born in 1927 and he's still alive, as far as I know. It's Frank Light's dad. Is he still alive, Grady Light? I mean, you know, he's nearly 100. He's nearly 100 years old. Sherfy, not Sherpy, Sherfy. I don't know what the origin of the name is. It is an unusual name. I've never heard that name before. It may... Hold on. I'm gonna... I bet it doesn't even tell me on Google. Sherfy name origin. Sherfy name meaning. Okay. The origins of the Sherfy name lie with England's ancient Anglo-Saxon culture. It comes from when the family lived in the town of Sheffield. Ah. You can never quite believe what it says on Google. The surname Sherfy is a habitation name which was originally derived from pre-existing names from towns, villages, parishes, or farmsteads. Sherfy family history. There we go. Where is the Sherfy family from? You can see how Sherfy families moved over time by selecting different census years. The Sherfy family name was found in the US and the UK between 1840 and 1920. Most Sherfy families were found in the US in 1980, blah, 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 or 1880. There are 6 Sherfy families living in Derbyshire. God, there's only 6 Sherfy families living in the UK. This was 100% of all recorded Sherfys. This is in the 19th century, in census records. Wow. So it is quite a rare name. Not like I said, I've never heard the name before. So I think there's probably more Sherfys in the US than there is in the UK. Well, there you go. You learn something new every day. I'm not quick. I'm only looking up the name origin. And some names actually have more than one origin. Like my surname, Low, it has a number of origins. Like it has, there's a Scottish origin, there's a French origin, just of the name itself. So, thank you, Ashley, for the $10. Don't know when I get to sleep. Well, it's currently nearly midnight, so it's almost past my bedtime. But I don't feel tired, actually. I didn't realize it was nearly midnight. Names are very interesting, yeah. Yours means bad person. Just me. Am I related to Rob Law? Who's Rob Law? I don't know who Rob Law is. What about Robin Lane? She's not a Beechcreeker. So I don't know where she comes from. You don't want to know where your Hancock name came from? Yeah. Oh, the actor. All right. I don't know who he is. Rob Law. Laws come from. Actually, Law also has. I don't even know. Hold on. family origin. So English and Scottish variant of law, German law, and Danish law from Middle High German means lion. That's a nickname for a brave or regal person. Well, that's definitely me. In some cases, the surname may have been a topographical or habitual name referring to a house or inn distinguished by the sign of a lion. But it can also mean it has there's a French origin of it as well, and it can also be low being a slang or a pranky name for someone who's tall, you know, because you give them a stupid nickname, and in some families it's stuck. So Law's a weird one. So I have no idea if I'm related to Rob Law. I did just say who is Rob Law, yeah. I don't take any notice of like actors' names. I don't know who they are. What about Tim Mullins? Well, first of all, he's not a Mullins, he's a Mullin, and he's not a Beechcreeker either. Here's lower German name. Miss low British name. There we go. So from British name, it's from someone who lived near a hill. Lewis. That sounds Welsh. Spread into the Celtic countries of Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. It's found in medieval manuscripts. His lower Viking name. Yes. It comes from all over. So the chances of me being related to Rob Law are probably very slim. You live for my snark. Grady's birthday should be 1924. So he is nearly 100 then. Like when you go back to records that are like from the 1920s onwards, or backwards, should I say, they're often out by 2-3 years because people didn't remember when their birthdays were. Definitely when you get to the 19th century, you quite regularly get records where you definitely know it's the same person and the birthdays are different. So it could well be that Grady's actual birth year is 1924. So he's nearly 100. Is he still alive is the thing. But I'll check it out. Where's my pad gone? I moved my pad. I don't really care as long as I know it's the same person. I'm not really bothered. Like birth year doesn't really bother me too much. That's why I've got a lot of people in that Hill family tree who it says they're either still living because I haven't bothered ticking the deceased box, or I don't have a death year in because I don't really care, honestly. Like if I'm just wanting to find whether somebody is a relative of someone else, then I just go up the generations, and as long as the child-parent relation of every generation is correct, like birth years only become important to me if there's two people of a same or very similar name living in the same area, and then the birth year becomes important because you can identify people from them. What is incredibly frustrating is when you've got the same name of the same person who were born within 2 years of each other, and you've no idea which person is which. You end up with like basically one person seemingly having two families, and it ends up not being true because it's just actually two people who are living in the same area with exactly the same name who have very close birthdays to each other. It leads you down an actual minefield or a rabbit hole. That's how birth years are important to me. As long as I know it's the right person, then I don't really care. But Grady Light 1924, still alive. Still alive, so he's nearly 100. Wow, I hope he makes it to 100. That's so cool. I'll never make it to 100. I will never make it to 100. Never. No chance whatsoever. Good on him. Good on him making it to 100. 99. 99 years old. But yeah, it's strange. Like my grandparents were born in the 1920s, and they knew their birth years, and they were adamant they knew their birth years. And then, you know, they would tell everybody. Well, my nan would. It was my nan, the keeper of the birthdays and everything like that. But then when I met my ex, his mother didn't even know what year she was born in. Like she just said she didn't care. So she was the same generation as my grandparents, and she didn't know how old she was. Now, obviously, she had a driving license, so she must have had some form of official documentation to get a driving license, but she just didn't care. And then my ex's dad, he never even passed a driving test, but had a driving license because he got it in the war or something, and he didn't know how old he was either. Like, all right. So I don't know. People don't seem to care. Some people don't care. How odd not knowing your birthday? Yeah, I know. Maybe she did know her birthday. Maybe she knew her birthday. I think it was her birth year. She wasn't. She didn't know. So she would like say, "Well, I'm about such an age, or roughly such an age." It's like, well, don't you know what year you were born? No, I don't really care. But she must have known. She must have had some. To get a driving license, she must have had an official document at some point. It is strange. It is strange. I thought it was really strange, but they were a very strange family. So there's that. They were a very strange family. That's so odd considering how the UK keeps records. Yeah, but there's keeping records and then keeping your records. She didn't want to tell her age. Maybe. But she would have a debate with you, going, well, am I this, or am I this, or maybe I'm this, and I think I'm this, but I'm not sure. I could be, you know, she'd have a debate with you. So I don't think it was because she didn't want to tell her age. I think she was genuinely unsure. Anyway, I'm going to go now because it has gone midnight and I've been on here for 2 hours and this chair gives me backache. It gives me real backache. I'm going to change Grady Lights. Grady Lights birth date, birth year. While I'm here. Where is he? Can't find him now. I'll have to look him up. Grady Light. As he's still alive, he deserves to have his right birth year. I won't do this for anyone else. So I've got about 1927. So definitely 1924. So he's actually only a year younger than my nan was. Like my nan was born in 1923. My granddad was born in 1921. So how cool is that? Grady Light's got his right birth year now. Show you. There he is. 1924, still alive. Still alive. Bless him. Good on him. All right. Oh, my StreamYard has stopped. It did this yesterday or whenever I was live. It like stopped giving messages and then started again randomly. So at least I can see it on my other screen though. All right. So who else do we? So on my list of family, just family names to look up. Let me just read off what you've said to me. Some of them I know are not Beechcreekers, so they're not going to be able to, they're not going to come of anything, but I've started my list right in the middle of this notebook. I do this a lot. I don't like go to the next available page. I just start writing randomly in the middle and then I can't find it again. Hold on. Bear with me. Here we go. Right. So we've got Redmond Lawson, which I'm already on with. Laura White, but I know she's not a Beechcreeker, so the chances of her having a relation in Beechcreek are pretty slim. The Dudley Agent, I know they're not even Tennesseans, I don't think. So I know the chance. You see, the thing is, they might have some connection with Tennessee, like going back a few generations. You might find that they are related eventually. Chambers, the Goalies, and I know they're not Beechcreekers, the Brits. And I want to check whether the Smith in the Lawson family is in some way related to Thaskell Smith. I doubt they are, because Smith's so common. This is why it's annoying when you have really common surnames like Smith, because it, like that name that I got from how I managed to find Chad Arnold was Schism. I know now a surname called Schism. I mean, who's ever heard of the name Schism before? And I just thought, I know that surname. I've seen it. And that's how I found how they were related. But when you've got a name like Smith, which is like the most common British surname, and I'm sure it's common in the US as well, amongst people with British heritage. They may not be related at all. What about Hammond? Who's Hammond? Oh, I know what you mean. You mean Tony, don't you? Tony Hammond. He's not a Beechcreeker either, but he could be related. Where's my pencil gone? I do this. Also, someone else I want to find is Haskell Rhines. I think the Rhines are related. I've just not. See, I've got so much to do. Got 944 people in that family tree, and I've only just scratched the surface. I could be doing this family tree for the next 10 years and still not have everybody in. Tony Hammond, right, I'll have a look for him. And I want Haskell, because that's a cool name, Haskell. I don't know how to spell it, but it's a cool name. Rhines. I did see some Rhines somewhere. You're dying to know if Jodie Sue is related to Lawson. No, she's not. Not as far as I know, she's not. What about Brad Wishen? He's not a Beechcreeker either. A lot of you from convicts sent over. Where's that from? Is that Australia? Because we used to send all our convicts over to Australia. Put them on a convict ship, and it didn't really matter if they lived or died. I think that's harsh, that. Oh, wow. Coolest name in your tree. Sapphire Paramore. That's a cool name. That's a cool name. Yeah, Australia. Yeah, convict ships. I wonder how long it took to get there. And I bet a lot of people did die. Sapphire Paramore. Was she born that, or did she give herself that name? Anyway, I'm going to go. But no, Jodie Sue. I've got Jodie Sue to quite a few generations back now. On her mother's side, I've not done her dad's side, actually, because her dad's a Brown, and Brown is another name, which is an absolute nightmare. Absolute nightmare to do. And I'm sure it will be the same in US records, just as it's the same in British records, because my stepdad was a Brown. So I tried to get, I've done Browns in my family tree. And his Browns are from Scotland. And I just got so frustrated with Browns. I stopped doing that line. Because they're not my blood anyway, so I didn't really care, but I was just doing it out of interest. Oh yeah, I wanted to see, this was a thing I wanted to find out. I wanted to find out whether my dad, who was a Brown, my stepdad, who was a Brown, was related to the Prime Minister Gordon Brown. Because my stepdad, was an absolute raving Tory. Like, he hated the Labour Party. And I found out that his dad, David, came from the same town that Gordon Brown came from in Scotland. And I thought, what are the chances of two people called Brown coming from the same town not being related? But I found out that actually Brown was such a common name in Scotland, there was a very good chance that they could come from the same town and not be related. So I stopped doing it. I only wanted to do it to pee him off. Like, for me to be able to announce to him that actually you're the second cousin of Gordon Brown. Like, you've actually got more relationship with the Labour Party than you think. But anyway. No, Jodie Sue's not a Bernard. No, she's not. He was a raving Tory. He so was. Jodie Sue's not no entitlement to any land whatsoever. She's not a Bernard. She was never married to Andy. Her dad was a Brown and her mother is a Coates. What program do you use? Ancestry.com. We need to know if Bernard is related to Lawson. The only relationship we could ever possibly find is through the Smiths, like I said. So I'll put that one like next to do. But it's going to be just as frustrating as it was for me to do Browns in and then the Brown family on Jodie Sue's is going to be frustrating. It's probably why I've not done them. Like the more unusual surnames I do first because they're easy. That's right. 2 separate light families in Beech Creek as well as 2 light hollers, yeah. And like they're a couple of miles apart, aren't they? Like if you think about it, like Light Hollow Road, whatever it's called, and Light Hollow, like it's right each side of Beech Creek, aren't they? And there probably was a common ancestor, but it's so far back you can't find it. Like there won't be any records to prove it. Streamlabs seem to be quite good and has a few more features than StreamYard. I downloaded Streamlabs and I hate it. It's so. I just tried to set it up and just got really frustrated with it and thought, nah, this is too complicated. I can't be arsed with it. So if you meant the program that I stream from, it's StreamYard. If you mean the program that I do my ancestry on, it's ancestry.com. I think I've answered 2 different questions there. I don't even know. I'm getting really tired now. It's like 19 minutes past 12. If you find the same name so close, there's usually a relationship, right? Not necessarily, no. Not necessarily. In like there's so many surnames that are so common that you could live next door. In the UK, you could live next door. Your surname could be Smith, and you could live next door to a Smith, and you have absolutely no relatives in common ever at all. You probably have to go back to the dawn of man to find a common ancestor. Because we're all related. It's just a matter of how distantly we're related. But if you wanted to find a relationship within records that you can actually prove, you could easily live next door. Like my great grandparents, there was 2 families of Lows living in the same very small like location within a few streets of each other. So my great grandparents' family of Lows was one family, and there's another family of Lows living in the same area at the same time, and I cannot find a common ancestor. I cannot find it. It's like they are 2 separate entities. Now, there probably is a relationship, but it's so far back, it's before records began. So that's how difficult it can be when you've got surnames that are very common, either common within a particular area or common generally within the population. Like Jones is a very common name. So if you got common name, then your family history is difficult, because you end up with trying to determine whether, when you get records where you've got the same name, because back in the 20s backwards, people didn't use as many really unusual names. Use all the same names coming back time and time again. You know, like Johns and James and Thomas, and so you end up with the same area with two people who have the same name, who were born at the same time, and you think, who are you? Who are you? Are you my relative, or are you some random person? Yeah, I trace back to William the Conqueror. I definitely do. Anyway, I'm definitely going to go. I've been saying that now for half an hour. Right, guys. So you nerded out with me. If you've sat all the way through this and you've totally nerded out and you enjoyed it, that's good. It's inspired me to do some more on this. So I'm going to do the Smith-Lawson connection next. And then, yeah. All right, guys. Maybe once I've done much more on this, I'll do another live stream and show you what I find. But I think I've done all the Grady likes your dad, AC. That's brilliant. That's cool. Well, hopefully his longevity rubs off on you and you live to 100 as well. That'd be cool. I know I definitely won't live to 100. My relatives, all the laws, like, die in their 70s. They just all do. They all drop dead. They just drop dead. My granddad didn't. He lingered for a couple of years, but yeah, the Law family just dropped dead. That's what they do. That's what they're known for. Anyhow, don't want to wish myself dead, but yeah. Let look no more. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Imagine the internet in 100 years. That would be so cool. Like, we'll all be like, it'd be like holographic. We won't be talking on StreamYard. We'll be talking to holograms of each other, because that technology is already coming. That technology is already coming. AC, I've already changed him from I had him in as about 1927, so I've put him in now as 1924. I've given him his correct birth year, so he deserves it. He deserves it, living that long. Like, when somebody's dead and they were like, you know, somewhere in the 19th century, I don't really care if I'm a couple of years out. It's because records are a couple of years out, and I don't really care. But when someone's still alive and they've lived that long, then they deserve to have the correct birth year in. So, all right, guys, I'm going to go. So thank you all for joining me, nerding out on genealogy. I'll do a bit more and let you know what I find. Yeah, thanks for the donations. Thanks as always to the mods. And I will see you very soon. Bye, guys.